What up, everybody? It's TERZO, and I just want to say welcome to the second installment of the Horrorcast. And yes, you are just hearing my voice. This is pretty much the podcast, so if you see the screen, there's just a logo on there. But I just want to say I have Andy Maniloff that's going to be on this episode. You guys are going to hear the podcast I recorded with him, and I just got to say the dude is awesome, and he's a real cordial guy and just tells it the way it is, and I respect that. So I just want to give a big shout out to Andy Maniloff, aka Doggy Doc, doing amazing stuff with K-June, working for Trick or Treat Studios, doing some amazing things for them, has always done amazing projects, so definitely give him a follow on Facebook and or Instagram, and also do not forget about his runs, and don't forget about his run of Dr. Evil from Austin Powers with Mini-Me. That thing is awesome, and congratulations to his ET run that he accomplished. So definitely awesome. Here is the episode. Check it out. What up, everybody? Sanchez, and we're back here with the second installment to the horror podcast, and I have none other than Andy Maniloff, aka Doggy Doc Designs, and I want to say hi, Andy.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, so I was very glad to finally get you on here. I've loved all your work, and everything you've achieved is amazing. Luckily enough, on the first episode, we had Tanilla, who works for Tots, and she actually suggested that you would be up for something like this, and I said, absolutely. So
nice.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. This is it's very important, I think, to get the history of custom artists and where they began, where they ended up. I think it's very important to preserve the history of everything. But I just want to ask you a few questions if you want to get started.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, I got a few random questions at first that I'd like to ask everybody, but what is your favorite movie?
What is my favorite movie? As in favorite movie of all time?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's a tough one. Does a series count?
Yes.
Band of Brothers.
Awesome choice. Absolutely amazing choice. I absolutely love that. So I'm assuming Saving Private Ryan's right there with it?
Yeah, Saving Private Ryan's. I like Band of Brothers a little more just because it's a historically it's a true story. It all happened. Saving Private Ryan is based on true stories, but it's not actual necessarily characters that exist in real life, you know.
Perfect. And so this next kind of goes along with it. So let's see what goes. What's your favorite character out of any movie or TV show?
Interestingly enough, I might have to say, I'd probably have to say Walter White from Breaking Bad.
Wow, another really good freaking choice. You know, that character is so deep. He hits so many dimensions. Oh my god. And
I don't know if you want to call him an anti-hero because he's not particularly a hero, but it's hard to not root for him but also hate him, you know.
That's right. I mean, you got to think about it. When you're put up against those kind of odds, what would you do, you know?
Exactly. Yep.
And finally, one last question is, are you a collector yourself?
Yes, sir. Yes, I am.
And what do you collect?
Mostly 1/6, although I've expanded that a little bit over the years just to things I think are neat, things I think are cool. The main part of my collection is DC Batman related.
Awesome.
That would be my all-time favorite. I didn't know if that answer would count before because Batman is played by so many iterations, but that's my all-time favorite sort of comic book character. So he makes up the bulk of my non-custom collection. So
let me ask you this. I saw the new Batman yesterday.
Yep. Yes.
Oh my God, was it good?
Oh my gosh. So it I don't want it to be hyperbole and, it's all based on the hype and you just got out of the theater. But that jumps to the top of my list or very close to it immediately. It was so good. It was so different.
That's right. Very dark tone, and finally they made him a detective. Thank God.
Yes, and the substance and the style, the score, the cinematography, everything about the movie just had a different look to it and a different feel to it than anything you saw before. So, first and foremost, it stands on its own. It stands by itself in terms of what it was.
100.
But as a film, it's hard for me to not put it over what I even consider the tops, which are going to be The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, you know,
Yep.
or in 89 Batman's up there as well, but for a different reason.
I'm telling you, the best description of that movie was if you mix Seven with Batman, the movie Seven. I was like, you know what? Yeah.
And after I saw it, I was like, "Yep, that's about right." It was as dark and gritty as I think you could make a Batman film without making it depressing.
And the Riddler was absolutely beautiful. But let me digress. So my first question is, how did you stumble on this hobby? How did you first encounter it?
Sure. Yeah. So the hobby in general was I moved to a new house when I first a year or two after I moved to the city I currently live in, which is in Indiana. And I had the first opportunity I had to do a little bit of a man cave, if you want to get cliche. I had a downstairs living room. We had an upstairs living room, that was the main area. And so the downstairs kind of became mine. And I was simply looking for ways to decorate my room,
That's right.
And I obviously was always a fan of Batman and the comic book movies and, just pop culture and everything, and so that's where I started, and I was looking on eBay, and I found statues from, Kotobukiya and things like that, and I had discovered Hot Toys through that, and all I ever thought of those was, holy cow, those look awesome, and holy cow, those are expensive.
As everybody, when they first start collecting, they all say that.
Yeah, so I went ahead and bought random statue this and random vinyl figure that, and decorated my room a little bit, and from there, as I was established in the city I lived in and the job that I had at the time, and I had, big boy money coming in just from having a normal job and, a significant other that we lived together and, we had disposable income, I started to say, hey, I discovered the Hot Toys community through Sideshow Freaks, excuse me.
Yep.
The forum, I kind of stumbled upon that as I started finding more and more things that I thought might, I wanted my display in my room,
Perfect.
And so sort of then that led into this whole world of, holy cow, this whole community exists of collectors, whether it be collecting commercially produced items. Early on in my sort of collecting time, I didn't know the custom sort of side of this even existed, I knew there was a section of it on the forums, but I never really visited it because I was just first discovering things like Hot Toys and those sort of figures that were already above and beyond anything I had ever seen as a kid. You know what I mean?
Yep. So when you saw the customs, you were just even more blown away at a certain point, right?
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden there, so as I had started collecting, I got it, I started with Iron Man stuff, and, then they came out with the DX11 and the DX12, and I jumped right on those, that sort of thing. Yeah. And then I sort of discovered the custom section and just thought, well, this is neat, people making stuff that companies won't do, that doesn't exist, that's too niche or small, time for a company to invest money on. And so I sort of started paying a little bit more attention to that, but I didn't ever participate, in my early years of being, getting into this hobby. The custom thing was just something I saw, and I saw from afar, and I saw was happening, but I didn't really know how it was done, if that makes sense,
Right, absolutely.
How that world worked.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's kind of the origin of my collecting was just born out of wanting to make the man cave,
Perfect, as anybody does. Now, let me ask you, how did you learn to do like these sculpting, these accessories? You kind of were saying it. You didn't know how it was done, but you made yourself learn, and especially when you say it wasn't too long ago, right?
Correct. So yeah, I can kind of answer that question with some more details that maybe not a lot of people are aware of. So I haven't, my job, what I went to school for, as my screen name implies, is I was a veterinarian. I guess you could say I am a veterinarian.
Oh, really? You're a veterinarian? You're a vet?
Correct. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. They think, just like many people's usernames, it's just a username. But
you just blew my mind. You literally just blew my mind.
Yeah, so I, went to college, I went to vet school, and I graduated with a, doctor of veterinary medicine degree. And so back in 2009 is when I moved here, and I got a job at a veterinary clinic here. And that's what I did as my career, and, the collecting and that sort of thing was a hobby, right? Obviously.
Right.
However, along with being a veterinarian, I have an artistic background. When I was in school, I really enjoyed drawing was my main thing. But I also built scale models when I was younger. I dabbled in sculpting, dabbled in painting, all of these being traditional techniques, right? Like when I was in school, digital sculpting was far beyond anything I had access to.
Right.
So I sculpted with clay and I painted with, acrylic paint or watercolor brushes, whatever. Scale models were the types where you bought the kits and you put them together and painted them yourself and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So once I discovered the custom forum as an adult, I kind of looked at that and said, wow, this is sort of like the stuff I used to do as a kid, but as a grown-up.
Right. Exactly.
And so how it all started was somebody on the forum was like, hey, the Nika penguin figure, that the very first one that they released, he doesn't come with an umbrella. How neat, it'd be really cool if somebody could make the umbrella for the penguin figure.
Right.
So I looked at that and I thought, wow, I can probably do that. I don't know how yet. I'll figure it out. But so I started a thread. And there was a lot of interest for it, and I decided I'd make the toy mobile umbrella, if you remember.
Yeah, oh yes, I sure do.
Uses to sort of trance the kids so he can steal them. And so that was my literally my first custom project ever in this world was the Nika toy mobile umbrella, and I think I could probably check it if I look at the forums and stuff, but I think that was late 2015.
You know what's funny? That answered my next question, because my next question was, what was your first few projects? So that's awesome. That's awesome.
So that was my first ever project. I think some people may have heard from either Magnus or Luis Torres. I assume some people know these guys. That the Holly-Ho candy bar I did was the first thing I ever did. It was one of the first individual commissions I had ever done, like where someone came to me and said, "Can you do this?"
I got you.
But the penguin umbrella was the literal first thing I ever did.
Perfect.
And so that was all out of fabrication. I hand sculpted the handle. I used metal tubes for the stem of the umbrella and metal, it's called piano wire, but for the supports of the canvas. And then the canvas was made out of spandex material, and I hand sculpted all the toys, etc. That's
really amazing, man. That's awesome. The fact that you didn't know how you were going to do it, but somehow it came out banging, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You gotta admire people that just push and push and push in their crafts. Yeah. They know they can do it, and they're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, and then if you don't mind me continuing, in my next project then was the Kryptonite spear for Batman vs Superman, because their first figure didn't come with that.
For the NECA?
No, I'm sorry, for the Hot Toys. The first armored Hot Toys figure did not come with a spear.
Okay, so you made that. Okay, perfect. So
I decided that'll be one of my next projects, but I realized I can't hand fabricate this. I can, but it will be very difficult, and it's like a machined piece. It should look very clean and straight lines and things like that.
Yes.
So I decided I think I need to start exploring 3D modeling. So I actually asked a computer science buddy of mine, not in the hobby, and he suggested a program for me. And I just started messing around in the program, and over time I learned how to utilize that program very greatly to my advantage to 3D model different parts that I would need,
That's awesome.
But it was all self-taught, if you will. I didn't take any classes. I just downloaded the program and started screwing around in it, and if I hit a roadblock, I would YouTube or Google a YouTube video to see if I could figure out how to get through where I was stuck, and stuff like that.
I respect that, because I'm kind of doing the same thing myself, so it's kind of a self-teaching thing. Now, I got a question. When you tackled that, obviously the resin for the spear, the Kryptonite, had to be a clear resin material, so did you find any troubles with what 3D printers you want to use, what resin, your settings?
So at the time, again, this is now early 2016, maybe mid-2016. I actually didn't own a 3D printer yet. And resin 3D printers were just coming on the market as something more available, like the Form 2, if you will.
Yep.
But the Form 2 was very expensive. It's really expensive at the time. It wasn't something I was even realistically looking at. So I had found that there were 3D printing services that I could use, like if you've ever heard of Shapeways.
Yes, I have. My friend Paul Manzi's always like, you got to print your stuff on Shapeways. I'm like, why? I got my own printer. He's like, you can do it in metal. I was like, okay.
Yeah, they can do a whole bunch. seeing how it's evolved from what I first discovered to now is pretty amazing. But point being is, I 3D modeled the spear, but I had no way to make it. So I found out, Shapeways can do it in this high resolution type of resin. I don't know how it all works, etc. So I had them print the spear, but I was only learning to use what were called sort of drafting or parametric modeling programs. These are programs that are kind of like 3-dimensional CAD programs. So they're very squares and circles and things like that. Like they're not sculpture programs, right?
Right.
So modeling the spear was not a problem, but the handle part, but the actual kryptonite part, I actually hand sculpted that out of clay.
Okay.
And then I molded it in, with silicone, and then I cast it in a clear resin that I, searched for on Amazon, and I found that this company makes these different resins, and they come in different colors, and I found one that was this perfect green color, and that's how I made the spear tip, was hand sculpting, molding, casting.
I love that. That's amazing. I mean, something so simple as a spear, but back then, that's amazing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Nowadays, everybody can kind of figure it out. There's all your YouTube and this and all that. It's a little bit easier,
Yeah.
But here's my next question. Any project ever stump you to the point where you just had to put it down or just didn't do it or maybe had to take time to retackle?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, I'm looking. I'm actually in my shop right now, and I'm just kind of looking around. I've got stuff everywhere, as all of us do.
Yep. Trying
to think. Let's see. Any project that stumped me where I hit a roadblock. I'm not sure if I ever had to totally quit a project. The only time I can think of doing that, and it had nothing to do with the complexity of the project, was I was going to do Anton's boots.
Okay.
And at the exact time I was thinking about doing Anton's boots, Rain Man came out with a version, Rose came out with a version.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was like all within the span of a couple weeks, there's all these versions, and I was like, you know what? The community is fulfilled. They don't need my version. I'll move on to the next thing. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. Like, sometimes this hobby's a little cutthroat. You got to think about it. When something new comes out, all right, everybody's doing it. Let's go. Let's get it done. Yeah. So you got to be the first to strike the iron, or else it's kind of like, well, there's no more point. Unless you wait a few years, Yeah,
I agree. And early on, I struggled a little with feeling frustrated when someone wanted to do the same project as me.
Yeah.
As an accessories maker, because that's really where I started and where I obviously currently focus, I probably feel like my mindset was wrong early on, because why can't two people make a pair of glasses for Neo, for example?
That's right.
I also hold the mindset that if two artists want to make the same character, who cares? I just, and maybe that's not a popular opinion. I hope you don't mind me saying it.
No, speak your mind, brother.
If so-and-so wants to make, I'll just use Anton as an example. Anton and another artist wants to make his version. I've never understood the sort of issue with that, other than kind of stealing the thunder a little bit. Like, I have 15 potential sales, and you're going to kind of undercut some of those.
Right.
But I don't look at it as an artistic integrity thing, because I didn't invent Neo sunglasses. The filmmakers who, chose the style did, and I'm just replicating them. And if more than one person wants to replicate them, all power to them. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I think Robbie and I both made Neo sunglasses, and we both, fulfilled a lot of collectors' holes in their collection, and I was happy about that. That's all I care about.
It's funny. I think I actually literally just bought a pair, a head sculpt of yours. It was like a 9mm head sculpt repainted by Yelin, but it came with your sunglasses. I'm waiting for it to be coming, so that I can't wait to see that. So it's kind of funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So, but no, I agree.
It's a slippery slope. I get it.
Right. I agree at the same time, I like the idea of, everybody can put their input on a figure, because every artist has their own, I guess you could say, artistic vision for something. So maybe they can offer something different. I do understand the stealing the thunder, and it sucks sometimes. It really fucking does.
Yeah. So again, I'm not knocking people who kind of have the opinion of, hey, well, so-and-so made it, maybe you should stay away from it for a little while.
Right.
I get, everyone's opinion, has some validity to it from some angle,
Absolutely. Here's my next question. How did you hook up with Tots with Trick or Treat Studios?
Okay, yeah. So I had been sort of evolving from the Penguin umbrella to this project to that project to now starting to do stuff with K June and stuff, and maybe you'll have questions about that. But
oh yes, I will.
but when Trick or Treat kind of shocked everyone 2 years ago when they debuted the 78 Myers, do you remember that?
Oh yes, I do.
At the Toy Fair, I believe. I don't remember which one it was.
Yes, with Alex.
Yeah, with Alex, they kind of came out of nowhere. Boom, here they are, and everyone was pretty impressed, and myself included. I didn't know any of that stuff was coming,
Right.
And later, the day that they debuted, or the day after, I just got a message from Alex, and he's plain and simple, kind of, hey, you interested in doing some stuff with us?
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, of course,
Were you a little, nervous or wow, dude, it's a little overwhelming?
Yeah, I mean, I had, at the time I was really doing a lot of this. Like, when I wasn't at work, being a veterinarian, this is all I was doing. I was doing it at night, on weekends when I could. At the time, my son was only a year or two, because he's about 4 now.
Right.
So I was just sort of fitting it in wherever I could. It was kind of consuming my world in a good way.
Yep.
I mean, I did it all the time because that's what I love doing. So he kind of comes along and says, hey, would you be interested in doing stuff for us? And I didn't know what that entailed. Does that mean a job? Does that mean just a project here and a project there?
Right. Right.
So to me, it was only thrilling at the time. I can say I didn't feel scared or nervous or overwhelmed outside of the thoughts of what is it that they want me to do,
Right.
And so he just kind of said, okay, well, we'll get in contact with you a little bit later. Justin Mabry, the VP of the company,
yes.
Alex told me he'll call me later, and it ended up being a few weeks, and we got on the phone, and he said, hey, here's our plans. And, obviously I can't say some specifics, but some of the things that you've seen recently, the Leatherface, all the Texas Chainsaw figures, so those were some of the very first things we ever discussed, actually.
Really? So there's a long road ahead. I mean, I know there's amazing things coming.
I can tell you, hey, I'm working on stuff and have done stuff you guys still haven't seen yet.
100%. And I gotta say, that chainsaw for the part 3, I love how that came out, and I hope they're able to replicate that paint, man, because I'm telling you, woo, was that spot on.
I have confidence, because achieving a chrome finish like that is actually easier commercially than it is custom-wise, because you can do a technique, I forget what it's called, but there's a technique that is kind of expensive, but when you do it in bulk, it's very cheap.
Right.
And it's how you get, chrome plastic on toys and stuff like that.
I got you.
And it looks really good. It looks like chrome metal. So there's a good chance they'll have an easier time doing it than I did.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Here's a question. What are your current projects, and what are you doing now?
Alrighty. So, current projects, one of the big ones is McCready.
Oh, God. Let's talk about that flamethrower, bro. Let's talk about it. That thing is perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most awesome things about all of this is working on stuff that I specifically like. I mean, I'll certainly work on projects that I don't happen to be a fan of the movie because someone asked me to. I have no problem doing that. But when I get to work on a project of a movie that I enjoy, like Halloween or The Thing or whatever. So when K June started talking to me about wanting to do The Thing, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm all for this.
Yep.
So doing the research to figure out all the little nuances and exact little, a lot of movies, they use stock parts and then change them in ways that you have no idea why they decided to, but they did, whether it's to get, around trademarks or, logos or whatever.
Yep.
So the flamethrower is awesome, and the boots and all the little blood petri dishes and stuff. But so McCready is probably the big figure I'm working on for not myself. Mm-hmm. I'm in the middle of the production for Ralphie, the deranged Easter Bunny, as I called it, and then awesome. Dr. Evil and Mini-Me.
Yep.
Those are my own full figure sets that I've put together with a couple of the other artists, as you guys have hopefully seen.
Yep, and that went great. That Dr. Evil sold out pretty quick.
Yeah, he sold out in 25 minutes.
That's insane, bro.
Yeah, E.T., which was my first full figure set, that sold out in about 90 minutes.
Wow, you should feel really proud, man.
Yeah, I am. It's, and what's nice about Ralphie and Dr. Evil and Mini-Me is the plan is to finish both of those this year before the end of the late summer or early fall, and I'm on track to probably be ahead of time.
That's one thing, man. I understand wait times, but sometimes certain wait times I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
When you hit 4 years, you're kind of like, motherfucker, let's go.
Yeah, I think, Dr. Evil and Mini-Me went on pre-order in January, and the plan is to be done by August. And Ralphie went on pre-order in November, and the plan is to be done with him in June. And those are the schedules I set way back then. And right now, at the very least for Ralphie, it looks like we could be early, if not right on time. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. It seems like you have your process down pat,
Yeah, so, and that's one thing I'll reveal. If I think a lot of people in the community know this, but I now do this for my job full time.
Really? Okay.
I got so busy with it and enjoy it so much, and the world of veterinary medicine is quite stressful, that I decided I'm at the right age where I want to really experiment and see what I can do.
All right.
And so I took the leap and switched over.
Plus, you always have the vet to fall back on,
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's why I kind of said at the beginning, I kind of said I was a vet, and I corrected myself. I am a vet. I have my degree. I'll never forget everything I learned, and if I want to go back to that, I absolutely can. But right now, I am sort of living the life, and I feel pretty darn good about it.
I'm going to have to call you if my dog ever gets sick, man. I'll toss you some money.
I've given plenty of advice. Don't worry.
So now here's my question. Now that it's kind of funny that you say you do this full time, because I was like, how long do you see yourself doing this?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's a full-time thing, and certainly I've had those thoughts, like, is the community going to look like this in 5 years or 10 years? Because if it doesn't, that will affect me.
Yes.
I've got the Tots thing going on as a sort of a I do what do you call it? Freelance? Let's call it that. So my projects for Tots are freelance. I do them on an as needed basis. Right now I'm not an employee in the sense of salary and benefits, but I do projects for them and as they need me to. If that turns into something more, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. If it doesn't, or if the community evolves in some way, my hope is hopefully I can evolve with it. But right now, this is what I do, and I see myself doing it for the foreseeable future.
That's awesome. I always thought, being an artist, it's kind of dangerous at the same time, because like you said, you don't have any benefits, insurance, like you don't have a retirement plan, so it's also an added risk. Because I know some of my friends are artists, and I asked them, like, brother, what are you gonna do when you're 75? It's like, right. He's like, I hope I save all the money,
Yeah, and not to get into the boring stuff, but as a vet, I had a retirement, what do you call it, a IRA thing, and I still have that, and I've planned and made the plans with what I'm doing to still contribute to that. So my wife actually works at the clinic I worked at, and so insurance is all taken care of with that. So I still have the things that I think we need to live a normal life with the family, but it's just sort of in a roundabout way.
Now this is a question that you don't have to answer if you don't want. It's a little controversial, but where do you see the custom hobby going? Do you see it growing? Do you see it dying? It's always something that, always comes up here and there. Because whenever you see Tots bringing up new things, people are always like, they get scared. I'm like, don't worry. The custom hobby's not going anywhere. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see it going anywhere. I see it, if anything, just evolving, because I see more of these companies doing more of the less common things. Sideshow's got the Lebowski figure coming out, which I don't think's all that great, but at least it's there.
Right, exactly.
The Clint Eastwood thing, Star Ace, again, I think they have significant sculpting problems, but Star Ace, is doing, more niche things, James Dean and whatever, you've seen. Trick or Treats, trying to get these, a lot of these, the Halloween, horror-related franchises covered, which is nice. But there's still, a lot of people are still going to say, but you just can't compete with a custom artist version versus a commercially produced. And certainly there's a lot of merit to that. The attention to detail to certain degrees just can't be paid with a factory. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And even if there's not, as much room for well, let's custom produce this whole figure. Look how many people are looking at Tots stuff and saying, what a great base for me to build a custom.
I say that myself, man. Of the Terrify, I've been customizing maybe 5 or 10 of those for people, blooding them up, repainting the eyes and mouth. I'm like, dude, that figure is literally great. And Tanilla even told me the outfit's pretty much almost as proto. A few things could be touched up, whatever, but she told me how to do it, you know?
Yeah. But there's, I don't know, I think there's still always going to be those people who say, I don't care that company X produced McCready, the custom one's going to blow it out of the water, I'm going to get that one no matter what, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, I do think if we want to get into a little bit of controversy, I think we're starting to see some pricing issues, sculpts that cost, as much as the whole figure used to a few years ago, just for a head sculpt, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure how that has happened and how it
I'm telling you, bro, I was actually just about to make a deal today with somebody who had a Heath Ledger Joker sculpt from a famous artist, and he was like, yeah, I want $4,000. I says, motherfucker, get the fuck out.
Yeah, I just, and that kind of seemed to suddenly happen, like, 2 years ago. All of a sudden
I think it's all this name brand stuff at the end of the day now.
Yeah. So that, the concern there is your price, are we pricing, is price going to become an issue? I don't know. And I myself, I as an artist, I say charge what you feel like you're worth, but
right.
Wow,
that's right.
A cast of a head sculpt costing $800, like, wow, like, I don't see where that came from, and I don't know if that's going to be sustainable. Maybe it will be, but if it's not,
I agree, because whenever I do projects, as I'm starting to do, I'm going in with the mentality best quality for the best price. Definitely. You know what I'm saying? Like I just showed my Freddy 2 and everything. Like, I definitely just want best quality for the best price. There's no need for a $6,000 figure. There's no need. Right. After a certain point, you're just, what are you asking for? Yeah. So
yeah, and part of me also has that mentality of it's worth what someone's willing to pay. So if there are people out there who are going to pay that, or $800 for a head sculpt, or $5,000 for a figure, I guess you can charge for it.
Listen, man. I've paid $7,000 for figures. I've even paid $10,000, and that and I'm telling you, after I pay, I have this gut feeling that I want to vomit. But it's the collector in us, so it's kind of a tough field we're in, Yeah. And it's very tough.
If anything, I guess the short answer to your question is, if anything, I just think it'll evolve, but it's not going anywhere. I just don't think it can.
And I 1,000% agree. And plus, I gotta say, like, you got to think about it. A lot of the custom hobby somewhat dictates what the mass-produced companies do sometimes, recast of the Redmans, recast of Rayman shit, I Mini-Me shit, whether or not, however that happened, people have their suspicions.
Well, and I also hope, I have heard, not to stand on my own pedestal or whatever, but, I'm trying to do something a little different in the custom world here with characters that people haven't seen yet, and also, all the last sets that I've shown have been completely done before I ever told people they were going to be ready for order. Here's a full figure ready to go. Here's what it's going to look like. Yeah. Are you interested? Instead of here's an idea, let's make an interest list, etc.
I like that. So people know what they're buying, and there's no room to complain.
Yeah. Yeah, and that means I have to invest a lot more up front. I'm not producing my prototypes off the backs of people's deposits, Right. And I don't see why we don't see more of that. I do know why, because it's expensive to do that.
I know. A lot of people think it's like, oh, they make this so it's easy. No, you got to invest materials, time. It's not as easy. I'm telling you, like, it's not easy.
You have to pay that tailor for that prototype, and you have to pay that painter for that first head sculpt paint, and all that stuff. But to me, I feel like hopefully the collector has a lot more trust in you when they see, wow, there's a fully produced prototype. I know exactly what I'm buying. I'm in,
And what's funny? You're the kind of guy that could get away with selling out a run or an accessory set without showing it just because you've built up that reputation. But the fact that you still go out of your way to do that is a great thing. It's a great mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Like in every project I've ever done, from the beginning, first one, Umbrella, to now, I'll never take money until I have a completed prototype to show anyone. I just won't do it. I just think that's wrong.
I love it. I love it, man. I respect it. Now, here's funny. Next question. Since you said you want to tackle characters that haven't been done before, any specific project or characters you want to tackle but have not done so yet?
I guess I'm going to be coy because my answer is yes. I have a list, but I can't tell anybody.
Okay. Can you say if it's horror or not horror?
Let's see. On my list, I would say there's one horror character that we've probably never seen, or there's been, I believe, maybe one custom out there.
Okay.
Like a private individual who put together the figure. So there's one horror figure that we're kind of thinking of, very non-traditional. I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be your, your big franchises you're probably going to think about.
Okay.
Because here's part of the reason I love horror movies. Hopefully everyone's gotten like the trick or treat thing has been a dream for me.
Right.
But you guys and the other horror figure producers, you guys got it covered, in my opinion. I feel like it's just a realm that I'm not sure if there's any reason for me to enter. You guys are doing a great job on those things.
We need you. We need everybody. We want it to grow, baby. We ain't trying to stop. That's the thing. Yeah. We got to open the floodgates. A lot of people want to keep this hush-hush because, investing in prices, selling pieces, whatever. Open the floodgates. Let people know,
Yeah. I mean, so at first, I'll tell you this. When we first did Ralphie, I produced, me and the team that I have put Ralphie together without telling anybody. We completely produced the full prototype in a secret, including every accessory, the packaging, etc. And then boom, I just sort of released him on the world.
Awesome.
And people thought it was great. People thought it was cool. But I didn't get the response I expected, and I figured part of that is Ralphie's pretty niche. He's a Christmas-related figure, but he's of our time, of the people who make up the bulk of this hobby.
Right.
But I also felt like part of it was because he was dropped so suddenly, people didn't have a chance to build up the hype.
Right.
So when I did Dr. Evil and Mini-Me, I developed the entire prototype in a secret again. I had him all completely finished before I started showing photos, but then I started teasing photos over the span of like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I showed a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then a little accessory, and then and then I revealed that Mini-Me was part of the set, and everybody freaked out. And then he sells out in 25 minutes. So yep. I made a decision at that point to, at the very least, I'm going to start teasing the figures I'm planning ahead of time so people know they're coming. But I'm not going to I have a list of 15 things I'm thinking about doing. I'm not going to release that all at once. You know what I mean?
I do the same thing, bro. That's the best way.
Yeah.
You gotta build up the hype.
Yeah. So I think recently I did a little fun teaser thing on Instagram a couple months ago to show what our upcoming figures are going to be, and Dr. Evil and Mini-Me were in there, and then so were the Spaceballs characters, so...
Perfect.
So those are the big ones after Dr. Evil and Mini-Me sets going on, so you guys are going to see a lot more of that stuff here pretty soon.
Perfect. Now, here's another question. Do you think the quality in the custom hobby can get any better where it is now? Like, we have the 3D printing, we have top. Can it get any more lifelike at this point?
I think, I guess my easy answer is yes, but is it worth it? Okay, so what I mean is, let's use a shoe for example, right? I can 3D sculpt a shoe with the texture, everything, print it out, paint it, and it'll look like leather. A lot of times I put real shoelaces in there to really sort of blur the line between 3D part versus real part, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You've got someone like Stripebox, right? Tatiana, who does actual leather shoes.
Yep.
Leather gloves, boots. They look ridiculous. So good.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not saying her work isn't worth it. It absolutely is. But as a result of the time and artistic investment in it, she's got to charge a lot more.
Exactly.
So is it going to get to the point of like the head sculpt thing where, yeah, we can certainly make a more realistic shoe or a more realistic weapon or a more realistic, whatever, but is it going to start to cost so much that people aren't going to be able to buy it, number one? But number two, is my faux shoe next to that real leather one, how different are they really going to look on your shelf? You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
So that's not to take away anything from someone like Stripebox. She is amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. And her work is worth every penny that you pay for it.
Right.
But I know there's a lot of collectors out there, my stuff included, who say, well, I could get your thing that costs this much or this thing that costs this much. And to that person, they look pretty much the same on the shelf. Exactly. I don't know, so I certainly think it can get better, but what's going on right now is leaps and bounds above just 4 or 5 years ago. It's unbelievable, I know.
So, yeah, there's definitely going to be those people that still will pay those crazy amount of prices, and those are the people that make hundreds of thousands a year plus, So those are the people that will throw their money at whatever they want and not even feel it. But I do like that idea, at what cost at the end of the day. So definitely a give and take.
Yeah.
And so here's a fun question. Who is your favorite artist in this hobby, and who inspires you?
All right, so that's tough. So who inspires me is really easy, and I told people this time and time again. When I first started, and I was just trying to, like I said, I never knew how I was going to do a particular project. It was just like, I think I can do it, I'll figure it out,
Right.
But the person I always looked at and said, if I can be as good as him, I'll be pretty proud of myself, is Robbie the painter, Robbie Jones.
Yeah, he's amazing.
How do you get a whole lot better than what it is that he does,
Yeah.
And early on, I was learning things I didn't ever know about. I didn't know how to cast anything, stuff like that. So I sent him a couple questions on the forum, and he answered, and he gave me advice, and he seemed to have no problem helping out somebody else,
Robbie's a real cool dude, man. I talked to him a few times, and he helped me out with a lot of things.
Yeah. At the time, didn't look at it like competition. He just said, hey, this guy's asking me a question. Why not tell him the answer to what he's looking for, So, far and away, he is the person especially when I first started, that I said, if I can produce stuff as good as him and make people as impressed as he does, I'll be doing pretty well,
Perfect.
In terms of my favorite artist, I'm not saying Robbie's not great and I don't love the stuff that he does. It's kind of hard because you've got people like K-June who do full figures. You've got someone like Robbie who's more on accessories, stuff like that. Right. You've got someone like Stripebox who focuses on accessories that are specifically, things like shoes and cloth and leather, and she does amazing work. But I've had a working relationship with K-June for a few years now, and so it's kind of hard not to say he's probably up there as one of my favorites. I think what he produces is pretty remarkable, and working directly with him, his attention to detail is unbelievable. To a point where it can be frustrating working on some of the stuff for him, but I understand why.
That's why you pay what people pay,
Yeah. You should see the notes between him and I when we were working,
Trust me, man. I talk to K-June sometimes, and he's always told me, no. Like, if I were to ever pose a figure, I could already tell that he would be like, no, you got to pose the clothing this way to take a picture. You got to do this way. I've heard some stories, no, you got to do it this way. And I'm just like, all right.
But he's so nice, too.
Dude, he is a sweetheart. He is the nicest freaking guy to talk to.
Yeah.
And he will answer any question, say please, thank you, much respect, and he'll give you those panda gifts, giving the hearts all the time.
Exactly. When I was working on ET, he was not a part of my ET project, but he gave me all sorts of advice on Elliot's outfit because he has an eye for it, obviously. So when I got the outfit prototype, I kind of said, hey, cool. I just was showing him pictures because I thought it was nice. And he said, well, I think maybe maybe they could change this or fix that. And he helped me send some notes to the tailor, and the outfit looked amazing as a result. Awesome. So that's just the kind of guy he is. So it's kind of hard not to put him at the top of my list, not only for his artistic ability, but for who he is as a person.
Perfect. Now, here's a question that's going to be interesting. Is it tough working under a contract not having the final say-so? In a K-June type thing? No, in a Tots thing, because with K-June you can go notes back and forth and you can give your advice.
Sure.
But you know how at contract you literally have to, if they say no, even though in the movie it's green, but they say no, I want it blue, you have to go blue.
Sure. So I guess the easiest way to answer that question is that has not been my experience working with Tots specifically.
Okay.
It was kind of like, hey, we need this, chainsaw from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, let's say, make it, and I started my 3D model, and I would send back and forth, renders of my 3D model, see what it looks like. And if I got feedback, I could either say, okay, sounds great, or I'd say, well, if you look at it at this angle, I actually think that it is either what I did is either correct, or maybe we only need to change it this much, and we would work on, whether that was the best sort of version of what it could be or not. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So even working with them, there was the same sort of back and forth where it was kind of like, I don't feel like I was ever told, don't care what you say, do it this way.
Perfect.
Really at all. And that's my experience. I mean, maybe it's not everybody, but no, I've had only a very good experience doing these things, and everybody's goal there. What I can tell you wholeheartedly with that Trick or Treat is everybody loves this stuff. They love the movies. They love toys, collecting. It's all people like we all are that just happen to have this company.
Perfect. No, that's awesome. I'm glad I'm hearing this, because that assures me that it's fun, getting done right. Everybody treats each other with respect. That's how it should be. Yeah. Now, obviously, if something gets changed without you knowing whether it's a factory issue or whatever, certainly that can be frustrating. Right. The first produced piece of mine from Trick or Treat that was done at the factory was the telephone and the glasses, and they pretty much recreated my stuff to the faithful T. Perfect. So I had no complaints there. I know there was a little bit of issue with the sheet and all that stuff, but I think that was more of a communication thing. Maybe, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not in the business part of it, so I'm only speculating. Don't take any of my word to gospel there, dude. And for the price point, some people should stop the complaining. Like,
yeah, I saw your video. It was really nice. I appreciate you doing the video and everything. And yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. Right. It bothers me that we have people who get a custom this or pay $300 for Hot Toys and have no problem modding it to their heart's content, and then there's a little issue with a piece of this or a part of that, and all of a sudden it's the end of the world. I don't really quite get that. What I want to say to those people? Sometimes I just want to be like, what, Tots? Just make a figure that's a $400 Hot Toy quality and just shut these people up. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. But right. At the same time, then they could be like, oh, why did their prices go up? Or why is this? Oh my God. It is, you cannot win. Yeah, you can't. But I mean, the whole reason they separated it in the first place was to give people the option. If you just want a figure, here's a figure at a price point you've never seen before. Right. And if you want some extra stuff to go with it, that's coming later. You pay a little extra, and you have all that extra stuff as well. Yeah, that was the whole point. And they're amazing customs. You take the head sculpt, get it professionally repainted. Like, what more can you really ask? Exactly. I personally, people are going to call me biased. I think that Myers head sculpt is one of the best ones out there. Dude, I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you, with a repaint and a rehair, that is the best Myers sculpt, period. I tell that to everybody, and not many people disagree with me. It is what it is. The paint, it shows what paint can do to something. Like that Terrifier sculpt. I'm having my professional painter repaint that for me. Oh, man. It's looking like the movie. It's so good, yeah. Well, think about it. A lot of people don't think about it, but who worked on the Meyer sculpt for Trick or Treat? Alex and Justin Mabry. Justin is the one who sculpts most of the Halloween masks for Trick or Treat. Right. That are the great masks for Trick or Treat Studios. The actual Halloween masks. So. I look at it this way: if you're a custom collector and you look down upon this stuff, I say buy it one time, because if you spend thousands of dollars on something, $120 while $200 isn't going to kill you, grab it, have your personal artist repaint it, and when you get back, like, see how the quality, because you saw Nathan Silent Surfer repaint that sculpt. Awesome. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Like, just grab it, and I guarantee you'll save yourself a boatload of time. If you don't like the body, just get a body that's similar size, better quality, change the clothes. It's not too hard, guys. And you're there. You literally saved yourself $1,000. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how I look at it sometimes. And that also shows how the hobby's evolving, Right. But finally, is there anything else you want to say? Because I think we hit every point, and we did it beautifully, and it was an amazing interview. I had so much fun. Good, thank you. No, not really. I'm having a ball. One thing I guess I'll say, a lot of people ask me if I do, like, private commissions and stuff.
Yep.
And I do on occasion, but right now, I'm getting so busy with my own runs and doing the stuff for Cajun, and now, obviously the back, people didn't realize I was doing all that stuff for Trick or Treat in the background. You never even saw it because I wasn't allowed to show it.
Right.
That I'm not necessarily closing myself off, but, the average request for an individual this or an individual that, probably just not going to happen.
So does that include just one-offs, or if somebody came to you, say, other than Cajun, and was like, all right, man, let's do a run of this, and it was something, that you wanted to tackle, obviously, you'd be up for that?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. It's mostly like, this random gun for this movie that's, there's not a run for or whatever, can you make it? I mean, it takes so much time to model a gun and print it and paint it and, stuff for one individual, and then I have to charge you so much more because it's not spread amongst a run, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, you know what's funny that you say that, so obviously when you're under a contract, you have a certain time frame to get something done, right? That's right. Factual. And you have to meet those dates. So when you're on a run, how do you balance that? I'm kind of pulling a question out of my ass, but how do you balance going from getting those done in time to then putting your runs on hold, then announcing a run? Because, they could hit you at any point, be like, all right, do this for me, and be like, I'm in the middle of the run,
Yeah, so there's a couple ways. I mean, number one, I like to, and maybe somewhat to my detriment, I like to work on a lot of stuff at one time. So even though I'm working on Cajun's McCready, I also was, you guys may have seen that wheelchair I put up. That was an individual commission I accepted quite a while ago, and I just finished it. Well, I've been working on that off and on the whole time. I'm doing a run of Indiana Jones accessories. I'm doing those in the background while I'm doing all these other things. So,
we got to talk. We got to talk about that later.
So part of it is I'm just, I work on a lot of stuff at once. But like when a new run comes along, I sort of, again, I've now been doing this long enough where I can kind of look at it and say, okay, I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this. If they want me to do this, I probably won't be able to start the modeling for 5 months, and then once I model it, the first prototype will be done another 2 months after that. I can sort of develop these timelines in my head, if that makes sense. I have a whiteboard in my shop where I write down a lot of my projects just so I don't forget what I'm working on.
Don't we all?
Yeah, I don't really have a calendar, of this or that. Like I said, once I see where I am in the process of any individual project, I sort of start to have a good idea. It's like, okay, I got this part of it modeled. It'll probably only take me this long to finish that part, and then I can print it and paint it, and there's the prototype. You know what I mean? So
perfect.
So yeah, it's a juggling act. So point being is when a lot of people recently have been asking me for either a commission or a run, I would say, hey, I can maybe do that, but I won't be able to start your stuff for a year.
So it's up to them. It's up to them.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's, I don't like to put a blanket statement out on my Instagram and say, hey, commissions are closed right now, because I don't want someone like Cajun to come along who I never heard of and say, hey, I want to do this run of this awesome thing, and then they're just never going to contact me because they saw that announcement on a Facebook page. You know what I mean?
Oh, I understand.
So I don't want to close off an opportunity. So I'm willing to hear it, but a lot of people might hear no for now, is what I'm trying to say.
Perfect. No, that's awesome, man. And yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. Is there anything else you want to say?
No. I just hope I hope everyone enjoys the work I do. I hope I've conveyed the sort of person I am and how much I love doing what I'm doing. And again, it's all, obviously I like collecting myself, but this is all for you guys. All I want to do is make sure people have cool stuff that they maybe can't get anywhere else. So
perfect. Yeah, so pretty much what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to sign us off right here, and then I'm going to talk to you for a little bit longer after, and then we'll say our goodbyes. But to everybody that's been listening, thank you so much. Thank you to Andy. Amazing work. He's got amazing projects coming. He's working on amazing things. He's really achieving something amazing, and the fact that he took his time to come and even entertain this interview is special. And always a shout out to Tanilla for, popping ideas in my head as always. So thank you, Andy, and thank you to the listeners, and as always, stay sick and conquer your own collection.
Thank you.